Okay, Rochester City Council update, December 2nd, 2013. Take 3. I have one interruption just about all the way through the video, and the second one that I have was actually just realized it went way too long, so I'm going to try and be a little bit more concise this time and try and narrow it down. There was just a lot to talk about at this meeting. First and foremost, this was our annual property tax hearing, and ultimately we held the property tax levy flat, and because there are more taxpayers next year, almost everyone in the city of Rochester saw their taxes were going down, and nobody showed up to complain about that. So, but keep that in mind with some of the other decisions that are coming up, because there's a price to pay for that fiscal stewardship. Second thing, we also had a little impromptu demonstration by the transit workers. We do not employ the transit workers. They are employed by the transit operator. We hire a transit operator to operate our transit system, and that is First Transit now, as they, far and away beat every other competitor when they bid on it. But they understood what they were bidding for. They have an organized contract here. These people don't make a lot of money. They make a very fair wage, and I don't want to drive them into poverty level wages. And I'm not happy with the fact that they're working without a contract, because First Transit is not offering them anything without driving down their wage scale. First Transit needs to do a better job. There's nothing we as a city council can officially do, but one thing I'd have to look at based on this experience is perhaps in future operating contacts, we're going to have to do some sort of a labor peace agreement, because we as a city have a vested interest in this. We do not want our transit workers going out on strike, or they're not our transit workers, but if they go out on strike, they cause huge issues for my city. We do not want that. We want First Transit to act responsibly. First Transit, if you're watching this, please get with the program, get a fair contract, get this thing done. I don't want to have to worry about these folks. They do good work. They don't make a lot of money. I appreciate their contributions to the community, and I appreciate them bringing this up at our council meeting. Next item, we also had an update on the Housing Summit from Stephanie Podolsky and Paul Wilson, two wonderful county commissioners, and absolutely phenomenal event that they helped to organize. I helped a little bit on the city side with that as well. Ultimately, we are not building the type of housing that the people of Rochester and the type of jobs that we're creating need to be here. We need a lot more affordable housing, and I think that name has some tarnish, but affordable housing can be a beautiful thing. It can add greatly to a neighborhood. It can address neighborhood issues. Take a look at Cascade Creek. That one costs a little bit more. The cost was more than justified. We really cleaned up that area and put in a beautiful building. People love it. The neighbors love it. The residents love it. We can do a lot more quality, integrated, affordable housing in transit-oriented locations. There are a lot of tools out there. We had a summit with hundreds of people in attendance and people that were focused on developers, bankers, nonprofits, housing advocates, people with organizations like Minnesota Housing Fund. We are all motivated to get this thing going. We have a major housing study coming up. This is going to be something that you're going to continue to hear from me for several years into the future. I am committed to addressing what I think is the number one economic development threat to the city of Rochester, and that's a lack of decent housing for the people that we need to build this economy here. So that work continues. Next up, Tom DeBoer came to the City Council meeting to talk about our audit contract last time. It is always more fun to have Tom there when he's saying nice things about me than otherwise. But he had some things to say about the audit contract, and I disagree with the decision the council made. Ultimately, we had an open bid to determine who was going to win the process of being our next auditor. A firm out of the Twin Cities won. They offered the best price, and they were more than competent of doing the work that was required. Randy Staver, Mayor Brady, both asked a lot of good questions about it. The problem with that was all of the good questions that were asked all had good answers. This is somebody who won our competitive process fair and square. Staff recommended this firm, and after hearing all the concerns that were raised by the mayor and council president, staff still continued to recommend this firm. They were the most qualified. They were substantially qualified, and they were doing it at a much lower cost. It was the best. It was the best value for the taxpayers of Rochester. All the people who are educated, experienced with financial audit in our finance department were all recommending this firm. The politicians got involved, and we gave it to the local firm. Now, the local firm has done great work for us. They're a great organization. I have no animosity towards them. I am just disappointed that we had supposedly a fair bidding process, and then we threw the fair bidding process out the window. And and we did so on a bunch of questions that, there wasn't any real reason to throw it out. So I'm disappointed by that. Tom was disappointed by that, but it is what it is. We move on, and I hope that next time we do a competitive bid, people will bid, and because they think they have a chance of actually winning the bid. This time, turned out that wasn't the case. Next up, we talked a little bit about Demeti and Sons, which is a company, I believe, out of Hugo, Minnesota, that did the Kutsky Park 2nd Street Northwest project. If you're familiar with this project at all, there were a lot of delays. It was not well done. There was a lot of rework. And I think the thing that really set the neighbors off is they killed a whole bunch of trees. We put some safeguards in place, and then they killed a whole bunch more trees. Sheer negligence from my standpoint and that of the neighbors. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a meeting, because right now with our low bid system, when we do that, anyone who casts the lowest dollar amount, we have to hire them if they're a responsive builder. Now, the way you handle this is you have somebody who you do not trust to do work in your community. You can declare them a non-responsive bidder. In order to do that, we should first find out the facts. So we're going to put together a meeting. We're going to have public works. We're going to have the neighbors, and if they're willing to show up, the company come in and explain what the heck happened. Why did things go so bad on this project? Can they be trusted to do projects for us in the future? If the answer is yes, we'll learn from our mistakes and move on. If the answer is no, Demeti and Sons will probably not be doing any work in the city of Rochester anymore. Either way, as the council member and the people that represent Kutsky Park, I cannot stand to see what happened last time happen again. Next up, we went ahead and we've ordered a appraisal of the land that we need for the fire station in Northeast Rochester. Ultimately, because the city taxpayers and the county taxpayers are a different group, when you're doing transactions between governments, it's important that you figure out what the fair value is and transfer to fair value. It's how we choose to be respectful of our partners, and we want to make sure that we're being fair to taxpayers on both sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to get an independent assessment, figure out what that land is worth, and then offer the county the fair amount for that land. We need this land, otherwise we probably won't be able to build the fire station in 2014, or face substantial increased costs as a result of relocating it. So we hope that it goes smooth once we have a fair offer in place. I don't believe that land has any residual value for the county at this point. It's left over right away from Viola Road. Last up, we have the issue of the Rochester Area Builders request and the Development and Permitting Task Force for a new position. And in short, it's not going to happen in 2014, or at least I would be shocked if it's going to happen in 2014. I certainly will not support it in 2014, or at least not starting out the year. We had a pretty respectful presentation, which is good, because we've had some pretty ridiculous comments made by a few individuals in that community before. Ultimately, we, the city of Rochester, have outgrown just about every upper Midwest city over the past, 30 years, and I don't make any claims that our process is perfect. I know we've made a lot of improvements in the last few years, both in terms of customer service and process itself. But the good thing here is that so the process isn't broken. I mean, we're doing okay. We know we can do better. We do know, however, that as I mentioned earlier, holding the line on the property tax levy, we have 31 positions that were requested in the city of Rochester. We honored only 4 of them. Among the 27 positions that we did not fill, they include some police positions, some fire positions, some other very high priority positions on departments that are very stressed right now. We did invest heavily on the IT side, which was another recommendation of the Development and Permitting Task Force. We're going to have 2 people heavily focused on improving our tools, improving the efficiency of all departments, especially the Excella program. And I think that that's going to help and move us in the right direction. I'm also hesitant to create this new position before we get our new planning director in place, because I believe that new planning director, he or she will have a lot of input in how we're going to oversee the development process. What's missing here is I do agree that we need to have somebody that's ultimately responsible for the development process. I disagree that throwing money at the problem and hiring somebody new is necessarily the way to do it. It could be done through reorganization. It could also be done by a partnership with Economic Development Agency. It could be done by the private sector. A lot of cities that we're being compared to that have a position like that do their economic development internally. We do not. We outsource to Ready, so maybe Ready has to be a part of the package as well. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm not willing to throw money at the problem until we see how the initial steps that we've made work out, and also how the new planning director is going to look at this whole thing. I do think the permitting task force brought a lot of important things to the discussion. I think they did pretty good work. I do think we will ultimately have somebody responsible for the entire process. But at this time, given the budget situation, given the positions other places we're not hiring, I'm not going to support this position for 2014, and I'd be pretty disappointed if any other council members actually did support it for 2014. Um, let's learn from the improvements that we're already making, figure out how to do this right. Thank you for watching. I know that's a lot to digest, but trust me, this video is way shorter than the last one.